Hello friends, and a warm welcome to the Slow Living Collective podcast. I am Amy, wife, mother of two and devoted homemaker. Join me on this journey as we explore the beauty of slow and simple living, where life unfolds at its own unhurried pace. These episodes are love notes from me, sharing the things that I sometimes need to hear myself as well. I'll take you through my experiences of slowing down, tending to my allotment plot and balcony garden, finding joy in the little things, and embracing our wonderful small home. In these episodes, I delve into what it means to walk a different path, stepping outside societal norms and embracing all the beauty it provides. Together, we'll learn how to live in harmony with the ever-changing seasons, discovering the magic of living in the present moment. I welcome you to come on this journey with me and maybe open your mind to a different way of living. I hope you find what you're looking for in the words of these episodes, and I hope they speak to you in your own unique way. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Slow Living Collective podcast. I'm Amy, and if you're new here, this is the place where we explore what it truly means to slow down, simplify, and live with more intention. So today I want to start with a bit of a question. When was the last time that someone asked you, how are you doing? And you answered with, oh, I'm fine, because we tend to do that, but also, oh, just really busy at the moment. And we seem to say it all the time, don't we? Almost as if being busy means we're being important or productive or successful. But this is what I want to dive into in today's episode. And it's a big question of what happens when we strip that all away. What's left of us when we aren't filling every moment with something? And so that's what I want to dive into today, why we hold on to busyness, what we find when we let it go, and I think most importantly, how we can use that as a catalyst to embrace a slower, more meaningful life. So let's grab a cup of tea, coffee, juice, whatever takes your fancy, take a deep breath, and let's dive into it. Before we dive back into today's episode, I want to take a quick moment to share something I absolutely love. Riverford Organic. If you've been looking for a way to make your meals feel more seasonal, wholesome and aligned with your values, Riverford is a game changer. Riverford delivers fresh organic produce right to your door straight from the farm. Everything is grown with care and respect for the earth, so you know that when you're cooking with their ingredients, you're nourishing both your body and the planet. And what I love most about Riverford is their commitment to slow food, cooking and eating in tune with the seasons. If you want to grab a Riverford box and get £15 credit towards your second order, go to theslowlivingcollective.com/Riverford. That's theslowlivingcollective.com/Riverford. So why do we cling to busyness? So before we talk about what's left when we slow down, we really need to talk about why we struggle to do it in the first place. And I think first and foremost comes societal pressure, because we live in this culture that is massively glorifying busyness at every turn. Our success is measured by how much we're doing rather than how we're feeling. And I think about it quite often kind of in the same sense of how we are judged by what we do rather than who we are. And you never see this more than when you are maybe meeting someone new or, an acquaintance, and, maybe somebody that you don't really know that well or you've never met before. And often one of the first things we ask each other is, oh, what do you do? And I guess as well, we are kind of impressed depending on what the answer is, and we very much sort of rate people in society based on what they contribute in a work sense. And it's so backwards. It's so backwards because we kind of skip over the fact of, are you a nice person? Are you kind? Are you friendly? And we're just like, oh, what do you do? And when somebody comes back with something like, oh, I'm a lawyer, we're like, wow, that's incredible. because it takes a lot of education to become a lawyer. Or, I'm a doctor, fantastic, what a really worthwhile job, and, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I'm saying? And but we never really, get to the nitty gritty. We never find out more than that. That is the opening gambit. And I remember going to an appointment many years ago. It was when I was a new mum of 2. And somebody said to me, "Oh, what do you do?" And I said, "I'm a stay-at-home mum." And they said, "Oh, that's nice." And, I've thought for the longest of times, and I know many people feel the same, staying at home with your children is not valued at all. That is not a contribution that people consider a valuable one. And instead, we are measured by that aspect of what we do. And people often think oh yeah, stay-at-home parent, it's great, but it's not really a job, is it? I mean, anybody that's a parent knows that parenting is a job. And it's just this idea that success is so often measured by either what we're doing or what we do, how we define ourselves. And it's funny that that's a question, and it's not right or wrong. We all do it, we are all part of it, but it's funny that has come into being, and that's sort of how we measure each other. Oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm a whatever. And that's how we judge it, really. And I know a lot of it is small talk, and I am the worst person for small talk. I'm just awkward when it comes to socializing, put it that way. But I'm not one for small talk. Let's get deep and get into the nitty gritty, but I don't want to have small talk. It's a waste of my time. That's how I feel about it, and how I've always felt about it. I don't want to have a surface level conversation. I don't want to, I want to get to know who you are. But when it comes back to, why we cling to this busyness and, talking about societal pressure, is that we are so defined by busyness because that is what our culture suggests success is measured by. When was the last time you heard somebody say, "Oh, I took things really slow today and it felt amazing"? Usually we're like, "Oh yeah, I did this, I did that. And sometimes, we don't even realise. It's so funny because I actually, before I started recording, I posted on my Instagram stories, and I actually did that. I sort of expressed in my story, "Oh, I've been so busy today doing this, that, the other for, the kids' home education, and we went to a class." And it's funny how ingrained it is, and we're wired to believe that being busy equals being valuable. But another reason we cling to the busyness is we've actually developed this fear of stillness. And when we slow down, it means sitting with ourselves. And sometimes that can be uncomfortable. Sometimes it can bring up uncomfortable questions or make us face things that maybe we've been putting off thinking about. But when we're constantly busy, we don't have to think too deeply about our emotions or our choices, or maybe even the things that we've been avoiding. And busyness it provides us with a validation. And I think it's a strange one because we don't need that validation, but busyness makes us feel needed and important. And if our calendar is full, then we must be doing something right? But deep down, being constantly occupied doesn't actually mean we're fulfilled. And the truth is that as humans, we're not meant to be in constant motion. And we've kind of framed slowing down as being lazy. You'll see it on, you go online and you'll be like, somebody is saying, "Oh, I had a really lazy morning." And what they had was a slow morning, where, maybe it was a Sunday and they didn't have work that day. And, maybe it was a family day if they're a family, and they're framing it as, "Oh, I had a really lazy morning." And it's not a lazy morning. It's an act of self-care and self-awareness that we aren't supposed to always be in constant motion. So, what's underneath all of the busyness? What is there when we start to let go of these packed schedules that we have? What's left? So, it turns out that there is a lot more to us, would you believe, than what we do and how often we're doing it. So, when we stop rushing around, we finally just have space in our lives to really ask ourselves, what actually matters to me? Am I actually filling time with things that align to my values, or are they just things that keep me occupied? And that's like a really key point in slow living is it gives you space between the noise, because there are things, and if you listen to this podcast long enough, you know that I wax lyrical about this, that life is busy, and we all have things going on that are non-negotiables. We have a lot of non-negotiables in terms of, it might be work or parenting or school runs, classes for our children. There might be things that are non-negotiables in our schedule, and those things are never going to change. And it's not about eliminating things and just living this idyllic, slow life off grid in the country. In fact, I would say it's, far, far, far away from that. That is the slow living that social media has told you to strive for, because as with everything, social media gets hold of it and turns it into a little bit of an aesthetic. But when we stop rushing, we can look and find that space and really figure out, is what I'm doing helping me align to what I really want? Is me doing this, that, and the other making a difference, or is it just something that's keeping me busy? Is there things that I can be more intentional with? And I think intentionality is so deeply woven into slow living, because it's not necessarily about doing less. It makes it sound like, I'm going to ditch everything in my schedule and just live this slow life. And it's not about doing less. It's just doing things with intention and being intentional with what matters to us and what aligns with us, and create then the life that we really want to live, and not get caught up in all of this busyness and hustle. But beyond that as well, busyness can really be a mask. So when we're not busy, and I think you'll probably identify with this, when we are busy or we're going through a stressful period in our life, when we're so busy, it gives our brain a break, right? So we're super busy, and there might be something really difficult happening in our lives, but we are able to just almost block it out, because we're so busy, and kind of like, I'll think about that later. But when we pull all of that away, we take the busyness away from everything, sometimes we can find the emotions that we've been able to bury deep down, and that might be stress or grief or maybe even happiness, right? They don't have to be negative emotions, and they might start to surface, and that can feel really overwhelming. But if we reframe it, we can think of it as a chance to heal and reconnect with ourselves. And then finally, part of that as well becomes that when we strip away this idea that we need to be in constant motion, and when we actually pull back and stop being in constant motion, we might realize that we're burnt out or exhausted, or that we're craving more friendships, or that we're missing something in our life. And it just allows us to focus on our real needs, and it allows us to listen to what we truly need. And so I think we've been so caught up in this idea that busyness is, who we are and how we frame ourselves, and what our productivity is, it's all connected, right? That our success and our productivity and our busyness, they're all intrinsically linked, and it makes us successful in some way. And so sitting in the stillness can sometimes feel strange at first. And I think it feels strange always. I think it's so ingrained in us over our entire lives that it can still feel strange to sit in the slowness. and sit in the almost nothingness. And it was so funny. Today's a really good example, actually. So this morning we had a slow morning at home, and my kids were really, really deep in play, and I'm very passionate about not interrupting that. I think play is the most important thing that children can do with their day, and I try, I really, really try not to overly have to hurry them. Now, of course, there are situations where I do have to hurry them, if we've booked to go to maybe a home ed class, or, maybe we're going to my daughter's ballet. Things start on time and we can't always be slow. I try to have a large build up, but inevitably no one's getting their shoes on when they need to, and we end up rushing at the end. But this morning we had a class around lunchtime, and so we had this slow morning at home, and the kids were deep in play. They really didn't need me for anything. And so my living room, my balcony is just off my living room. So what I did, I thought I would just get the chair out, I'll sit outside with my coffee. The kids are just inside the door, and I can hear them, I can see them, and if they need me, they know where I am. And so I sat down with my coffee, and then I stood up, and I was looking at my plants and stuff on the balcony, and I was like, shall I plant some seeds? Oh, no, I should really get everybody some breakfast, and we've got to go out, so I need to make sure everybody's well fed. And I just could not sit still. I could not just sit and relax. And I think sometimes it still catches up that the stillness can feel strange, but the more we embrace it and the more we flex that muscle again, the more we uncover, what life can be like, and how nice and good it can be when we have a bit more intentionality around it. So how can we embrace slow living? Why should we embrace slowness? What is the gain of it? So when we stop rushing around, we start to be able to see really what matters to us rather than what we're just filling time with. And it allows us to be more present with the people that we love, whether that's, parents, friends, husbands, wives, children. It just allows us to be more present. And, we can't be present all the time. And I think that's a completely unobtainable idea that we are going to be sitting in this perfect idea of always being in the present moment, never distracted. I if you feel the weight of that, then I want to give you permission to just shake it off, because it is impossible to always be present. And I just don't think it's possible for adults. Maybe children are better at being present, and we can learn a lot from them, but there's so much going on. There's so much ticking around in our brains all the time, whether it's, stuff for classes, the kids at school, you've got events coming up, or it's your work, or, have I done the shopping order? Oh, there's so much going on all the time. Oh, I didn't do the electricity reading. Loads of stuff all the time. And we can't always be present. It's just not possible. There has to be moments where we are not present. But what you'll notice when you start to slow down is that you feel less stressed, because our nervous systems are not designed to just be go, go, go all the time. And rest is essential, and we are caught in this loop where we feel like we have to earn our rest. Rest is an essential. It's not, you don't earn it from, being busy and achieving all the things on your to-do list. If you need to rest, you need to rest. And above everything else as well, embracing slow living really just allows you to see the joy in simplicity, and, the real simple things like a quiet morning, a nice coffee, a conversation with, your husband, wife, friend, family member. All of these things can really bring you a lot of joy. And most importantly, it just helps us move from just existing in this life and living this life of, default, and actually moves us to experiencing life and being an active participant in it. Now, shifting from a busy life to a slow one is not easy. So here's how, I wanted to give you some tips on how you can start to navigate that. So we often feel guilty when we slow down because we've been taught that being productive and our productivity is like the ultimate goal. But productivity, you can still be productive and live a slow life, by the way, because it doesn't mean filling every second. It's just about making space for what matters. So next time you feel guilty about resting, ask yourself this. Like, would you judge your friend for taking a break? And the answer is probably not. So why do we judge ourselves? And another common question that I hear quite often is like, I don't know how to slow down. And that's because when you're used to this really fast-paced life, stillness, like I said, can feel strange. So just start small with that. Take a few minutes in the morning to sit with a cup of tea or coffee, or take a short walk without any distractions, and build the habit, because you have to flex it. I have had so many people say to me like, I don't have time in the morning for like an elaborate morning routine of slowness. And I'm like, do you know what? I might be home full time with my children, but I don't either. There is no way anybody's letting me take, half hour to journal and meditate and do yoga and all of that. It's not happening. But what I do is I make myself a coffee. I make sure everybody is catered for, breakfasts, everything they need, to give me the best shot at getting 5 minutes to myself. Then I will have my coffee and I will take it for 5 minutes. I will stand outside. And sometimes I get longer, sometimes I never get 5 minutes. And it's just about that small little habit to, build it up. And I think that's the thing, is just flexing that muscle. So I want you to just ask yourself for a second, like, what is one thing in your life that feels unnecessarily busy right now? And if you could remove like that one thing or something else from your schedule and replace it with something meaningful, what would it be? You don't have to have all the answers right now, but even just thinking about these questions is a step forward. So, we've talked about slow living and disconnected from the busyness, but here are a few ways to help you get started if you're brand new or if you just need to recalibrate and come back to it. So create some space in your day. Schedule some moments of nothingness. And now you might be thinking, I haven't got time. Even if it's 5 minutes somewhere, it will make a difference. Whether that's 5 minutes to have a cup of coffee in the morning, it's 5 minutes while you eat your lunch on your lunch break from work, take it outside, sit on a bench, have that 5 minutes to yourself, no scrolling, sit, and just, you can be mindful about the way you eat and intentional about it, and just take some time, find a spot in your day or multiple spots if you need multiple, and schedule in those moments of nothingness. Let there be room for that stillness. And set boundaries with your time, because firstly, you don't need to be switched on all the time. Modern technology has made it so we're accessible all the time, at all times. We have notifications pinging at us all the time. Anybody can connect to us at any moment. We have never been more connected than we are right now. Turn your notifications off. Remember that not every email or text message or task needs an immediate response. And also give yourself permission to say no. It's really hard, but sometimes I just feel like I cannot, and it's okay to say no. And kind of on the same point about setting boundaries, I was talking things like apps and notifications and stuff. Try and disconnect from that where you can. I have no notifications on my phone at all. I think I've said this before. The only notifications I get, my phone will ring and I get text messages, and I mostly communicate through WhatsApp. And in my WhatsApp, the only people that aren't muted is my mum, my dad, and my husband. And it's no reflection on anybody else. It is just that I will get to it when I check my phone. And, I can't have constant notifications, because that just fuels the feeling of busyness. And, sometimes I do social media for my job. It's all part of, podcasting and writing, blogging, all of that is all connected. But I actually, I'm not, a little behind the scenes here. If I'm posting like an Instagram reel or something in the morning, which is when I often do it, I haven't just sat there and created that. I haven't just sat there and created a video. What I actually generally do is I will film little, like short clips, let's say, and then I will spend maybe a couple of hours just editing those together, creating the video. Like, it's part of my work. And then on the day, all I'm doing is just uploading, and I've already done it. I've done everything. I've written the caption for it. I've created the video. It's literally a couple of minutes of uploading the video clip into something like Instagram or TikTok, uploading the caption, and pressing share or whatever it says, and that's it. That is honestly it. And so just being intentional like that, and I appreciate that, it is part of my job, but a lot of people enjoy creating content. And if that is you, then this might help you. Just create content in like a batch, and then it makes it easier to disconnect from the distractions, because what happens then is I can spend a couple of minutes, uploading a video, the caption, pressing share, and then it's gone, and then I close the app and I'll go off and get on with my life. And that really helps. It means that, I'm disconnected from it more than I'm connected from it. And there are times where it doesn't work out. I have been recently in a launch period for my course, which is now closed, and that's really busy, and I have a lot more to do when that's happening, and a bit more connected, and but also a bit more connected because I'm excited to see people sign up and take that first step. And so I have been a bit more like checking my emails, has anybody signed up, and things like that. But on the whole, I try and keep a distance from that. But on the face of it, you would think like, oh my gosh, she is posting this, and she's always here. When actually, like, the period of time I actually spend on the app is really minimal. And I'm gonna check just while I'm here to see if I can see how much I've been on Instagram today. So I've been on Instagram today for 12 minutes, and today is slightly less than other days. I was on for 4 minutes the other day, but then another day I was on for 59 minutes, 40 minutes, and so those are, like, I would say, particularly heavy days for me. 12 minutes is, I would say, so it says up here, my daily average is 15. And so, actually that's a very minimal amount of time, and that's actually probably less about posting anything and just, having a little watch of Instagram stories and having a look at grid posts. So really minimal. So other things you can do is, just start finding joy in simple routines. That might be washing up after your dinner, making a cup of tea, going for a walk, because these are just very simple, everyday moments that can just sort of pass us by and we don't pay any attention to them. But they can be really grounding when we are more present and more intentional. And lastly, I want you to think about redefining success. So instead of measuring your day by how much you got done, measure it by how present and intentional you felt. Because when you strip away all this busyness, do you know what is left? You is what is left. The real you, your thoughts, your feelings, your values. And that might sound a little scary at first, but it is honestly the most freeing thing in the world. And I really hope that this episode just gave you something to reflect on. Maybe you're in a journey of slowing down yourself. Maybe you're just dipping your toe in, but I would love to hear how it's going. So come connect with me over on my Substack. So my Substack is where I post all the episodes for this podcast and the associated show notes. You can leave me a comment there. We can chat back and forth. It's really simple. It's kind of like a blog. Come visit me there. I'm there at theslowlivingcollective.substack.com. And if you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so you don't ever miss an episode. Thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. Like I said, you can find me over on Substack, theslowlivingcollective.substack.com. Come find me over on Instagram and currently TikTok. I ebb and flow with TikTok, so I might not be there forever. But you can find me in both places at The Slow Living Collective. And yeah, thank you so much for listening. I hope this episode was helpful to you, and I will catch you in the next one.